I want to give a special shout out to all my patrons first. Thank you so much to my Bibliospren, Bibliohowlers, and my Bibliomancers. It means a lot to me that you give me your extra support for my passion and hobby. Hi everyone, Petrik here. So today's video will be about the top 10 books that I predict will receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating in the year 2024 that I managed to read anyway. So I've been posting this kind of video 2 times now, in the year 2022 and then 2023 and then, well, this year 2024. And in the year 2022 and now 2023 as well, for those 2 years I managed a 50% succession rate. Yeah, 5 books were 5 out of 5 stars as predicted, but 5 of them were not. And do I know my reading taste? I will say yes, I do quite know my reading taste and also my instinct, because 5 of this, even though they are not 5 out of 5 stars rating, 5 of them are 4 or even 4.5 out of 5 stars rating, and they are Untethered Sky by Fondali. Oh, I'm talking about the books that I read in the year 2023. Yeah, they are Untethered Sky by Fondali, The Bone Shard War by Andrea Stewart, The Shadow Casket by Chris Wooding, and then any of the books in Mother of Learning. I was going to read The Cure for Living as well by Nicholas Litzau, but the book was not released last year. Hopefully it will be released this year. As for the successful one that I managed to predict correctly, it was for The Will of the Many by James Islington, and then Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio, To Green Angel Tower by Ted Williams, Lightbringer by Chris Brown, and finally Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. So yeah, it is quite a good succession rate. So how about this year, in the year 2024? Well, today I will make that prediction again, and hopefully I will manage better than last year. I will start from the first 2 immediately, and some of you might consider this as cheating, but you know what? They still count as 2 books, and I'm talking about Ashes of Man by Christopher Ruocchio and the 6th book in the series, Disquiet Gods. I have no doubt that these 2 books, they will receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating from me again. Ever since Empire of Silence, the 1st book in the series, and then moving on to Howling Dark and Demon in White, which I consider as a masterpiece, and then recently Kingdoms of Death, one of the darkest books that I have ever read, one of the most brilliant one as well. All of them receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating, and I have no doubt that Ashes of Man, which I will read next month, in the month of February, and that Disquiet Gods will receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating from me. This is on its way, as I said, toward becoming my favorite sci-fi series of all time. It already is one of my favorite sci-fi series of all time right now, at the top on par with Red Rising Saga, but there is a good chance this will end up topping it as I read through more books in the series, and that's about to happen really soon. I'm very excited about this, of course. And the 3rd book in my prediction, it is The Witchwood Crown by Ted Williams. This is the 1st book in the Last King of Wostenart, which is the sequel series to the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy. So I think many of you know that Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy is one of my highlights of last year. And the 1st book, The Dragonbone Chair, and then the 3rd book, To Green Angel Tower, are in my list of favorite books. And considering that The Dragonbone Chair is actually my favorite of the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy, well, The Witchwood Crown, the 1st book in the series in the Last King of Wostenart, has a possibility, has a good chance of becoming my favorite in the series. At least it will receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating. That's my prediction anyway, even if it doesn't become my utmost favorite in the entire series, because the series is 4 books long. It has Empire of Grass, and then Into the Narrow Dark, and finally the upcoming The Navigator's Children. So there is always the possibility that any one of these books become my favorite in the Last King of Wostenart. But for now, I am predicting, just like The Dragonbone Chair, the 1st book in the series will receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating. I already miss reading Ted Williams' writing style, and I think I will end up reading The Witchwood Crown either next month or at the latest in March. We'll see. We'll see. Moving on to the 4th book in the series, we have The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. So The Vanished Birds is an amazing sci-fi novel, amazing standalone novel. It is one of the books, one of the very few books that somehow reminded me of reading Ken Liu's writing, and I loved it very much. Right from the first chapter, one of the best first chapters ever. Right from the first chapter, it just continued to hook me throughout the entire book, and The Vanished Birds became one of my favorite standalone novel now. And well, many people told me that if this one, despite its unique narrative style, click with me, The Spirit Cuts Through Water is even better. So yeah, I have no doubt that I will be reading The Spirit Cuts Through Water this year. The Vanished Birds received a 4.5 out of 5 stars rating, and I am hoping that The Spirit Cuts Through Water will receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating. Very excited to read this one, although not gonna lie, I was surprised when I opened the book and it begins with a second POV narration. That always took some time for me to get used to, just like the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. But I ended up loving that trilogy as well, so hopefully that will be the same case for The Spirit Cuts Through Water. For book number 5 on this list, I'm going to choose a book in Wars of Light and Shadow by Janny Wurts, her magnum opus. And well, this is of course difficult because even though I love Rift War Empire trilogy by Raymond E. Feist and also Janny Wurts, and also I really enjoyed reading To Write Hell's Chasm, a standalone novel by Janny Wurts, but I haven't started reading Wars of Light and Shadow yet. The plan is to actually start reading it this year, probably this month or next month. That's the plan anyway, to start reading Curse of the Mist Wraith. But as for my prediction, I'm going to follow what my fellow friends told me. These are a few people who know my reading taste, and they keep telling me that the third book in the series, Warhost of Vastmark, the conclusion to the second arc out of 5 in Wars of Light and Shadow, is one of the best books in the entire series. So my prediction will be for that one instead of Curse of the Mist Wraith or the second book, The Ships of Merior. I would have preferred to make a prediction for the latter books in the series, assuming that I managed to get around to them, but that's where the issue lies. I have no idea whether I will be able to get to them within this year or not, but for the first 3 books, it's a huge priority for me to get to. And well, I am making a prediction that Warhost of Vastmark, the third book in the series, will receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating. And moving on to the next one, this is even more difficult because I haven't read anything by this author yet. I'm talking about the author behind The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna. Lawless. This is a historical fantasy, an Irish historical fantasy, but so many people, my patrons and also my followers, keep telling me that I should give this series a try because it is supposedly an incredible character-driven fantasy series, and I love character-driven fantasy series. My prediction though will be for the second book in the series, The Words of Kings and Prophets. This second book in the trilogy currently has an average rating of more than 4.6 on Goodreads. That is absolutely incredible. It is definitely still a part of underrated series considering how relatively few the number of ratings it has, but well, most of them are very positive, and also, as I said, so many people told me that I must read this series. And well, the third book is coming this year, The Land of the Living and the Dead. I might as well read the entire trilogy within this year. And I predict, hopefully, The Words of Kings and Prophets will receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating. I guess the same notion is also applicable to the next book I will mention, and this is for Siege of Shadows by Janice Andrews. So this one is the third and the final book in the Keeper's trilogy, and similar to Shauna Lawless, I haven't read anything by Janice Andrews yet. But the Keeper trilogy was already in my list of series that I wanted to read last year, but again, I couldn't get around to it. But now, with a Threat of Shadows Kickstarter hardcover edition in my possession, I think it is the right time for me to start reading the Keeper's trilogy to the end within this year. And then there will be a completed prequel series published after the Keeper's trilogy to be read. I have no idea whether I will be able to get to that within this year or not, but so many people told me that's even better compared to the Keeper's trilogy. But before that, what made me confident about this is that this series is so recommended to those who love the Rhyria Revelations by Michael J. Sullivan. Even the publication structure is kinda similar because it begins with this trilogy first, and then the series published after that is a prequel series taking place like I think hundreds of years before the events of the Keeper's trilogy. It is kinda similar to the Rhyria Revelations in that sense. First we have the Rhyria Revelations, and then we have the Rhyria Chronicles. And after that we actually have the Legends of the First Empire. All of them are prequel books to the Rhyria Revelations. And pretty much all the reviews mention that the writing style, the feel-good narrative, the character-driven style, all of this reminded them of the Rhyria Revelations. So hopefully, yeah, Seeds of Shadows will be the best one of the trilogy. For the remaining 3 books in my prediction, all of them are pretty much my most anticipated books of this year. Let's start with the first one. We have Herald by Rob J. Hayes, the first book in the God Eater saga. So this one is a part of Rob J. Hayes' Kickstarter campaign, and if I'm not mistaken, the hardcover edition or the ebook I think will arrive this March. And yeah, I will be reading that immediately because I love Rob J. Hayes books. The Mortal Techniques by Rob J. Hayes is one of my favorite ongoing series. And Rob has been teasing the arrival of the God Eater saga for years now, for a lot of years. And he is very confident that this is his best work and also his most ambitious work to date. And with that in mind, I predict Herald, the first book in the God Eater saga series, will be the next one to receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating. Now the dilemma is to wait for the hardcover edition to arrive first before reading it, or immediately jump into the ebook edition in the month of March. I guess we'll find out what my reading mood decides when the time comes. And then the 9th book on this list is of course the sequel to my favorite fantasy book of last year, The Will of the Many, and the sequel is The Strength of the Few, the second book in the Hierarchy series. I absolutely love The Will of the Many. I think many of you know about that by now. I read The Will of the Many in March 2023. Yeah, that's almost a year ago. But we don't have a release date for Strength of the Few yet. But the last time I chatted with James Islington, he was quite confident in releasing Strength of the Few within this year. And if that happens, especially if it's anything as good as The Will of the Many, then yeah, this will definitely get a 5 out of 5 stars rating again. And finally, the last book in today's list is of course my most anticipated book of this year, and probably a lot of readers as well, Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, the 5th book in the Stormlight Archive and also the conclusion to the Stormlight Archive Phase 1, which I will consider as the ending to the Stormlight Archive until we have book 6, because Sanderson himself has mentioned it will be probably 10 years before the release of book 6, which is the beginning of the second phase in the Stormlight Archive. So yeah, I will consider this as the concluding volume to the Stormlight Archive. And well, Stormlight Archive is one of my top favorite fantasy series of all time, and I've been waiting for this one ever since I finished reading Rhythm of War. I consider every book in the Stormlight Archive, The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, and Rhythm of War, a masterpiece in epic fantasy, even with some of their flaws, like the one in Rhythm of War, in my opinion anyway. And I hope Wind and Truth will be able to continue that streak, especially because, as I said, this will be the conclusion to the first phase of the Stormlight Archive. So yeah, that's pretty much my prediction for the 10 books that I predict will receive a 5 out of 5 stars rating in the year 2024, assuming that I manage to get around to reading them. Do let me know what you think about my list, especially if you have read some of these books, and also tell me which books that you plan to read this year that you are confident will be a new addition to your list of favorite books. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it from me today. As always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.